But first, an astonishing announcement today from the Victorian Government. The death toll today from the coronavirus, a record 41 people. All of them old, the youngest in their 70s, the oldest over 100. And all of them, bar 4, from aged care. There's also a very bizarre thing that just says to me so much about this lethally incompetent Victorian Government. Of those 41 deaths today, 33 had been somehow mislaid. They were of people who'd actually died in the past couple of weeks, but only now are you being told about them. And good luck trying to work out the explanation from the Chief Health Officer.
The Commonwealth has strengthened the reporting obligations in early August based on a need for that VARC to have absolutely definitive data on deaths that have occurred in residents who have coronavirus. And so in early August there was a mandatory reporting to the Commonwealth that also goes to VARC on that basis. But some of that is being caught up.
And count on this, there are in fact more deaths that they haven't yet told us about. They can't even count the dead in good time. And again, I think if only this government could do the basics right, like run quarantine hotels and do testing and contact tracing much faster, make sure the sick do stay at home and that the aged are protected. If only they could have done all that, then Melbourne would not now be locked up again so tight that cyclists on the weekend were even being pulled over by police for their papers to check that they weren't more than 5 kilometres from home. It's so crazy. I mean, where in the world has anyone caught this virus out in the open air, in the sunshine, from a passing cyclist? Meanwhile, police even confronted a woman in her own home who'd posted advice online to go out and get some exercise, which police thought could encourage people to break Victoria's stay-home rule.
I said to go for a walk. I said go to your local park, which is actually allowed. And I said to go for an hour, which is allowed. So I didn't say to meet people. I said go for a walk. So you guys can show you the post if you want. There's 3 of you here with how many cop cars? 2.
3 people in 2 cars to chase up that woman. Victoria really is turning into a police state because the government couldn't and can't just do its own job properly. And all Australia is now bleeding. Here is the Treasurer today, sounding the alarm, demanding Victoria's government at least explain how business is going to get out of this.
Up to 400,000 people will lose their job or see their hours reduced down to zero. The hit to the national economy is somewhere between $10 to $12 billion. The figures that we've put out today indicate that spending is down by 30% in Victoria, whereas around the rest of the country it's down by just 3%. And what businesses are looking for and what Victorian families are looking for now are messages of hope.
Now, the pressure from the Treasurer, from businesses, did at least force the Victorian Premier today to explain that he will give them a roadmap out of his stage 4 bans by, well, next Sunday. But he wouldn't promise to actually lift those bans in 2 weeks' time, which is the due date, even as new infections today fell to 73, getting closer to New South Wales case numbers, 10 today. But let's not overlook the Morrison government. Safety in aged care homes, that is its responsibility. And I'm not surprised that today's news poll had the government losing its big lead over Labor. It's now back to 50-50, as Labor kept attacking again today its handling of this tragedy.
Aged care residents are now so neglected that up to half are suffering from malnutrition, 1 had ants crawling from open wounds, and over 400 have died from COVID-19. Why is the government congratulating itself on a job well done when over 400 aged care residents have died?
But let me go back to today's death figures. All those people in aged care, all old. Did they die from the virus or with it? Well, the Chief Health Officer was asked just such a question last Friday. Were the people then too all killed by this virus? And would they, if it were not for the virus, otherwise be alive today? The answer is no.
For deaths from coronavirus. Anyone who's a confirmed case who dies is classified amongst coronavirus deaths. So it doesn't have to be definitively from coronavirus. And in some instances, in aged care, there would have been some residents who were already receiving palliative care who became infected with coronavirus.
So Victoria shut down to stop, in some cases, people from getting the virus who are, in fact, already dying in some cases. Now, this, in fact, turns out to be not so surprising. In Italy, a study shows that just 1.2% of the dead in one sample had died of coronavirus alone, with no other comorbidities, conditions that could help kill them. All the rest had other dangerous conditions. Nearly half had at least 3. In the United States, it's the same story. The Centers for Disease Control last week said just 6% of Americans who died had COVID-19 listed on their death certificate as the only cause. The rest had, on average, 2.5 other conditions or causes of death as well. Now, this is not to say that coronavirus isn't dangerous. In fact, when you compare America's weekly death rate now to the average, it has been up by between 2 and 20,000 a week. That's earlier this year. But what this data does tell us is that this virus is pretty specific in who it does kill. And that suggests we should be a lot more specific about who we protect. It's the old and the frail, not like we do now, the young and the healthy.